ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Okay, so from the 15th verse, युञ्जन्नेव सदात्मानं योगी नियतमानसः शान्तिं निर्वाणपरमां मत्संस्थामधिगच्छति. He says, the yogi who practices this meditation, okay, what happens to that person? Okay, because two types of meditation, as I said. One is preparatory, and one is nididhyasanam, after you have done a certain amount of shravanam. Once you have got some insights that fact your consciousness, etc., then you do the nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam step in our practice we have not yet taken, but we will do it here. He says once who does that, yunjanneva sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasah. The yogi, who is a yogi now? Niyatam manasam yena. One who has a mastered mind. Okay, it doesn't matter if you can't touch your toes. Okay, do you have a mastered mind? Okay. Don't say if you have a mastered mind you'll be able to touch your toes. Okay, that is not true. It's good to be able to touch your toes for your health, etc. That's a different thing. Okay, but here we are concerned more with your mind, how well mastered your mind is. Therefore, niyata manasaha. Why? What is the mastery that we are talking about? The mastery is that integration between your knowing, intellectual self and your emotional being. See, very often what happens is we don't live by what we know in our day-to-day life. In our day-to-day life, we are not living by what we know. Therefore, when it comes to the knowledge of the truth of what you are, that also remains in one corner of the mind. It does not color or come through to your own personality. So, this harmonizing between your thinking, knowing self and your emotional being, that's what we call really an Arya. If you want to know the meaning of the word Aryan, this is the meaning. Arya. One who has got this integration. Aryan is not a race or a tribe or the invaders into India. No. This is what it means to be an Aryan. That means what? Look at this. Okay, I'm giving an imagery, so there may be a little this thing in it. Here's a person who smokes regularly. He is a person who smokes regularly. Why? He didn't know the harms of the damage that is caused by smoking. He didn't know. Though in today's world it is difficult to find somebody like that. But let us say, all your parents' generation, they didn't grow up with the knowledge that smoking is injurious to health. Those who are in their 80s, when they were young, all these messages were not going around. That was the time of the Marlboro man. Okay. The great outdoors, the cowboy, and everyone smoking away. So let us say he didn't know. But the guy has got a totally integrated mind. And somebody tells him, hey, smoking is injurious to health. He says, what nonsense. I've been smoking all these years, nothing is wrong with me. Then they show him the images, they show him the research fact, he reads all of them and he's convinced, yes, this is true. Smoking is bad. It's good for me to stop. Then since his mind is integrated, what happens? The cigarette packet, the lighter, everything goes into the dustbin, straight. That's it. Why? Integrated mind. I didn't know it was bad, now I know it is good. That is what we call a really integrated mind. Not that I am not yet strong right now. I will try after some days. See, we are human, therefore sometimes it has to do like that, And of course, everything that you know is not good for you is not at the same level. Okay. Cigarettes are at that extreme level. Sugar is bad for you. Correct. Sugar is bad for you. Correct. But is it at the same level as cigarettes? No. In fact, Ayurveda says there should be some sweet in your diet. I totally agree with that, okay? But Ayurveda says you must begin with a little bit of sweet. So I will say I will end also. Anyway, jokes apart, different things are at various levels. Okay? Therefore, but to live by what you know is integrity. That your emotional being and your knowing being, there is a harmony there. Thought, word and deed are harmonized. Your behavior is in harmony with what you know. Even if you cannot bring everything that you know into your behavior, at least your behavior does not contradict what you know. Therefore, the more you live in integrity, the more this Vedanta knowledge also will flow into your life. Well, it's natural. Yeah. Another example I give, just for so that people will understand what this integrity means. Okay, you know, eating bhelpuri on the road is a bad thing. You know, it's unhygienic. I mean, there is no two ways about that. Eating in a restaurant is different. I'm talking about eating on the road with that bhaiya and, you know, especially pani puri with all that. He uses his thumb very effectively. You know, years ago, when my friends were studying medicine in Sion Hospital, okay, there was a Bhelpuri wala outside where all of them used to go and eat. Bhelpuri, Pani Puri, all that he used to have. Once he fainted on the road outside, just outside the hospital. So they naturally took him into the hospital. So the doctor who was examining him saw his nails. And you know what a Bhelpuri wala's nails look like. If you have not seen, next time you better see it. So he took a scraping of that, whatever is there under the nail, and sent it for pathological examination. And the doctor told me, every problematic virus and bacteria on earth was there under his nails. From E. coli onwards, everything was there. So we know very clearly, Bhelpuri is bad. The roadside Bhelpuri. You go to Saroj and eat, it is okay, alright? I have examined their kitchen and everything. Yeah. I actually have done because I know the owners. Okay. So I actually done it. I'm a crazy guy, but you know, so these things I do. Because if I say something, I have to back it up. How can I say something which I have not verified? That's not me. Okay. So, in a hotel, it is different. We are talking about the roadside. But all of us have our own favorite Bhelpuri walas. No, my Bhelpuri wala is safe. Why he uses bottled water or what? For his chutneys. So can we see where cigarettes we may not be smokers, but this part of it, it's okay. It won't do any great damage. It'll give you a stomach upset. That's all. So I'll give you a solution for it also. If you eat Bhelpuri like that, go home and eat some roasted ajwain. Problem solved, okay? If once in a way you want to break it, but make sure it is once in a way. See, that's why this type of guru is good, you know. He will show you how to get around an issue also. But we are talking about integrity. Okay? When that intellectual and your emotional this and your behavior is in harmony, the knowledge will flow through. But a modern society like we are living in, okay, many of us feel constrained to tell some white lies, isn't it? I mean, we all do that. Social niceties, we call it. Social niceties. Therefore, there is always some lack of integration in us. Always there. Everyone has it. Yeah. Therefore, we need to supplement the Shravanam, the learning, with Nididhyasanam meditation. We need to do that. Therefore, Nididhyasanam, even though there is no rule that without Nididhyasanam there is no moksha, Shravanam itself will give you knowledge. But because of these issues, all of us require some Nididhyasanam. How much or how little will depend on each of us, will vary. But all of us will require some amount of it. Though there is no general rule that you have to do Nididhyasanam. No. If Shravanam is not enough, if you have been listening for some time and you still don't feel I am limitless awareness, etc., then back it up with Nididhyasanam. That's what he is doing here. Okay. Therefore, Yunjanneva sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasa shantim nirvana paramam. Nirvana paramam shantim. That absolute shanti, that absolute peace, that peace that does not depend upon your mind. Normally for us, peace means when my mind is quiet, when my mind is not worried, when my mind is not anxious, then I am at peace. No. Whatever the nature of the mind, you are at peace. If the mind is agitated, enjoy the agitation. It's like watching a stormy ocean when you are on the shore. When the ocean is calm, you are watching a calm ocean. So, your mind is calm, you are watching the calm mind. Your mind is stormy, you are watching the stormy mind, enjoying it. For that, you have to know the I that is in and through the mind as well as beyond the mind. That I has to be clear. Therefore, Shantim Nirvana Paramam. That's called as Nirvana Moksha. Okay. Mat Samstam Adhigacchati. Mat Samstam Adhigacchati. Which is what? Being absorbed in me. Now, Krishna here is speaking from the standpoint of the pure consciousness. Ishvara is pure consciousness. Says, if your mind is full of this knowledge with me, then Shantim Nirvana Paramam is your natural state. Whatever you are doing in life, you are at peace. You are the calm center in the storm of all activities. Pashyan Shunnan Jigran Naiva Kinchit Karomi. This sounds familiar, no? Pashyan Shunnan Jigran, etc., etc., etc. Aham Kimapi na Karomi. 4th chapter. It was there, that verse was there. Okay, you are at peace. Yeah. Whether you are attending a wedding, it's all joyful, etc. Sangeet is going on. You are sitting and enjoying the show. And one of the youngsters drags you in. Come on, you should also take part in dancing. Okay, Baba. Though really speaking, people may not want to see you dance, but that's okay. I generally don't have that problem. Because of my martial arts, I have good footwork. So, you are at peace. Then you get a call. You say, okay, I just have to leave. There's some work that has turned up. Sorry. And you leave. And you're attending a funeral. It's a sad situation. From a happy situation, in a few minutes, you ended up at a sad situation. And you empathize with all the people. There you are empathizing with all the joy. Here you are empathizing with all the sorrow. But what are you? Shantim Nirvana Paramam. You mean to say you are a fake when you empathize with the sorrow? Of course not. You are honest. You are honestly empathizing. You feel their pain. At the same time, you are free from it. Shantim Nirvana Paramam. Your joy and peace is not dependent on the nature of your mind or the situations around you. It's nice to say it takes some time. Okay? Actually, it need not take some time. If your mind is got fully integrated like how Arjuna's mind is, you'll find at the end of the Gita, after Krishna has taught him for a couple of hours, he is saying, Nashto moha smrtar labdva. My delusion is gone. The Gandiva leaps into my hand again. I couldn't hold it before. It slips from his hand. Now it leaps back into hands. Let us roll. The battle awaits. No problems. Yeah, let us roll. Battle awaits. Battle awaits. Death awaits. Death and destruction awaits. So what? Let us roll. Ki farak pende as a Punjabi say. It's a good expression. I like it. Yeah. Let us roll. Kya farak pada? I am beyond time and space. What are you talking about birth and death? What are you talking about killing or being killed? Kuch nahi. Yes. So if your mind was that ready like Arjuna's, fine. Unfortunately, we are not Maharathis or Vajramushti warriors. Okay. For our minds to be like that prepared. Our fights are limited to in-laws, outlaws. And of course, husband and wife. And that's natural. Getting married. I have to tell you something. All those of you are married at some time or the other, if you are still not married, okay. I mean, you are not remained married. You know, in that marriage, there is a Panigrahanam. In North India, what they call Hasta Milap. You know why it is done? No. Have you seen two boxers in the ring? What do they do before they fight? Okay, so that is it. Marriage is picking up a sparring partner so that you can fight the world well. You train here and do it out there. So next time you fight with your partners, think of it as training, okay? Don't think of it more than that. Then Shanti will be there. Okay, jokes apart, if your mind is that ready, as Arjuna's was, or Maitreyi Gargi's was, you'll be fine. Otherwise, little bit you have to do that meditation. Okay. Then he's also adding something here. I cannot be living a very mechanical life and say I will do 20 minutes of meditation every day and everything should go smooth. Remember, Vedanta is 24/7. Vedanta is not one Saturday evening. 24/7 it's a life of Karma Yoga. It's a life of Samatvam, of balance. Because it's a life of balance, I'm sure all of you in school have studied Buddha's Eightfold Path. Gita was not taught in the school, but the Buddha's Eightfold Path was taught. And that Buddha's Eightfold Path comes from the next two verses here in the Gita. Okay, let's have a look at that. Na ati ashnastu yogosti naiche ekantam anashnatah na cha ati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjunah. This yoga, this practice of meditation, is not there for one who ati ashnastah, who overeats all the time. Extreme case. At breakfast, not only is he eating breakfast, He is thinking what is going to be there for lunch. Planning for lunch already at breakfast time. I mean, snack in between happens anyway. So at lunch he's thinking of what is going to have for tiffin. At tea time he's thinking what is going to happen for dinner. 3 square meals means 1 round stomach. Okay. Nati ati ashnastah. If you are extreme in that, you will not be able to sit and contemplate. You will contemplate only on food. Okay. Nati ati ashnastah. Then nachi ek. Okay. Nacha ekantam anashnatah. Or someone who is not eating at all. He eats only 1 meal a day. Extreme intermittent fasting. I only have a 2-hour gap or a 4-hour gap to eat. I eat only then once. Too extreme, unhealthy for your system and your mind, that also will not work. That also will not work. So Swamiji, then what will work? You have to find out what works for you, okay? Yeah. Find out what works for you. Each person has to find out. But I know one thing for sure. This extreme intermittent fasting, when people say only 2 hours or 4 hours, that's not healthy. Medically, that has been looked into. Okay? 1 meal a day, that's not healthy. Okay? Intermittent fasting, when you have 2 meals a day, is okay. When you have some 16 hours or maximum 18 hours gap, we have not eating. Even 18 is a bit too much. 1/3 of the time you should be able to eat. So what? Because I'm saying all this because all this is going in the society now. Everybody is on the intermittent fasting bandwagon. Okay? Yeah, up to 16 hours of not eating, okay. Beyond that, not healthy. Not healthy at all. Okay? Therefore, if you all are trying that, be careful. Later on, don't come and tell me this has gone wrong, that has gone wrong. I'm cautioning you right here. A lot of things will go wrong. But Swamiji, we heard Sadguru, etc. only eats 1 meal a day. When you reach that level, you can eat 1 meal a day. Okay? Until then, don't. When you can sit in Samadhi for a few days, in meditation for a few days at a time, then you can do that. Okay? Not before that. Okay. Swamiji, what about you? I don't feel the need for intermittent fasting. Okay? Whatever I am doing is working for me. In my 60s, I can still, by God's grace, still combat with 25-year-olds. So whatever I am doing is working. Why do I do bother about anything else? Yeah, it's true. If I do intermittent fasting, I may get 6-pack abs. But I'm quite happy with my full pack abs. So it's okay. Okay. Because we are not talking about the body, we are talking about here and what's here. Yeah. Therefore, Nati ekantam anashnatah. Nacha ati swapnashilasya. Too much of sleeping. Too much of sleeping. How much sleep does a person require, an adult require in a day? The quality of sleep is what matters the most. So 6 to 8 hours, enough. 6 to 8 hours should be enough. There may be a few cases may require a little bit more. Another half an hour, 1 hour. No, Swamiji, I sleep at sunset. I follow the old system. I sleep at sunset and get up at sunrise. In winter in Bombay. 7 to 7 you're sleeping. Doesn't work. You better live somewhere in Norway or something and become a hibernating bear. Naja ati swapnashilasya. Jagruto naivacharjunah. This guy is an owl. He goes to sleep at 2 o'clock in the night. 2 o'clock in the morning. And gets up at 7 o'clock. Okay, if you are going by yogic practices, all of us who are meditators, who do a lot of meditation, etc., the advice given generally is Between 1 and 3, all of you should be either in samadhi or deep sleep. And we take roughly 2-hour cycles of sleep. So 1 and 3, you must be in deep sleep. So what would be ideal if you have to get 6 hours of sleep? 2 hours before, 2 hours afterwards. If you are going only by 6 hours. Healthy. Okay, if you want a guideline for it. A little bit modification here and there is fine. You know, Swamiji, I sleep, I'm exhausted by 10 in the night. Good, I go to sleep at 10, no problems. There was a time when I used to sleep at 9:30 and get up at 4 o'clock, 4:30. 9:30, 10 I would be asleep and 4 o'clock I would be up. Not anymore. Why? I'm getting all my calls at that time. So if I can sleep before 12, I'm happy. And 6 hours. Once in a way you can do without sleep, and that's a different thing. Okay? Once in a way it's a different thing. We are talking about what is regular. Therefore, if you are living a life of a meditator, as a regularity you need a balance between waking and sleeping. And until you are rooted in the truth, you need all that. Once you are rooted in the truth, none of these rules and regulations apply. You can break all of them. Your body may suffer. Okay? Yeah. I know I can push myself for 3 days without sleep. Even longer if I can get naps in between. Okay? If I can get cat naps in between, even longer. But how much do you want to push your body and for what? This comes from my old martial art training. When you are on a mission and you have to be, the whole mission takes about a week. You don't get much time to sleep. So what do? Sleep whenever you get the time. Half an hour here, 20 minutes there, 1 hour there. That's enough. But that is not normal. That is not what the norm should be. We are talking about the norm here. Okay. Once in a way you are going on a weekend party, this, that, etc. Don't sleep also is okay. What difference does it make? Yeah. Come home and crash out. That's okay. We can understand all those variations. Okay. Those variations are fine, but we are talking about the norm. Okay. Therefore, he concludes that section by saying this. Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabhodasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Yuktahara viharasya, appropriate ahara, food, appropriate roaming around, meaning other activities, appropriate, in moderation. Okay. Yukta cheshtasa karmasu, yukta cheshtaha, your activities and karma, the things that you do. You are not a workaholic, working 16 hours a day, unhealthy. Push it maximum 12 hours, okay, not more than that. Okay, not more than that. Yukta cheshtasa karmasu. Yukta swapnavabhodasya, appropriate sleeping, appropriate waking. For that person, yogo bhavati dukkha. For that person, this yoga will work. This meditative life will work. So now you know where Buddha got it from. Okay? This is at least a couple of thousand years older than Buddha. Okay? The Gita is. Okay? Therefore, this is the basis of how you live your life. You go by this. Okay? Alright. Then what? What do you go by? You go. You do. So would you like to practice this meditation? One more session? 10 minutes? Okay. Let's go. Okay. Fine. Okay. So we sit erect as all that we picked up last time. Remember that. Your body is erect. If you want to sit cross-legged somewhere, you can do that. But if you are sitting cross-legged, sit cross-legged. If you are sitting on a chair or something, see that both your feet are firm on the floor. Okay? Firm on the floor. Okay? See that your spine is erect. You can get it if you push yourself back into your chair or if you sit on the edge of the chair. Either way you will get it. So see that your spine is erect. With this natural curvature that is there, the spine. Okay. And without much ado, gently close your eyes. See that your eyes and mouth are gently closed. No frown on your face. See that your facial muscles are relaxed. You are not clenching your jaw. Gently close your eyes and mouth. Don't frown. No frown. Relaxed forehead. All facial muscles relaxed. Neck muscles relaxed. Don't look up. Don't look down. Look straight forward. Neck muscles relaxed. Shoulders, arms, forearms, palms and fingers all relaxed. Chest muscles relaxed. Stomach relaxed. You don't have to pull in your stomach. You're not on a parade ground. You're relaxed. Sides relaxed. Upper back, lower back relaxed. Waist and hips relaxed. Thigh muscles relaxed. Both the quadriceps and the hamstrings all relaxed. Arms, forearms, palms and fingers relaxed. Knees relaxed. Calf muscles and shin relaxed. Ankles, feet and toes all relaxed. Now look at your body in one sweep of vision from the head to the toe. It's relaxed. It's like any of the other bodies sitting here. To help you quieten your mind further, just pay attention to your breathing. Breathing happens, you just pay attention to it. Now invoke the Lord, Ishvara, Bhagavan, in whatever form you can relate to. Any form. Any form, invoke the Lord. And offer a Manasa Puja. Even if you have never done a puja in your life, it's okay. Make up your own. Offer the Lord a seat. Do the Abhisheka. Feel the coldness of the water when you're doing the Abhisheka. Offer him vastram, clothes. Dhupam, Deepam, Naivedyam. Offer them all. Purely mental worship. Manasa Puja it is called. Take the arati plate for the final arati. Light that camphor. See the camphor flaring up. Offer the camphor to the Lord. See the Lord's face lighted up in the light of the camphor. Put down that arati plate, take the arati yourself. Get the smell of the camphor. Make it vivid. Prostrate to the Lord and sit down for your japa. When you are starting the japa, you are not thinking of Ishvara, Bhagavan, Lord, etc. You are focusing on the chant when the chant is there, and focusing more on the silence when the silence is there. You are just being awareful. Remember, you are not concentrating, you are just paying attention. When you do it on your own, you can use whatever mantra your guru or guide has given you or what you have taken up. Here I am using one of the universal mantras that are there. You are welcome to use this as well. Om Ishaya Namaha. 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 Before the chant there is silence. After the chant there is silence. You are the one that is watching silence. The one that watches silence is silence. The chant is born in silence, dies down into silence. Look at it again. Om Ishaya Namaha. Om Ishaya Namaha. Om Ishaya Namaha. Like a wave that is born in water and dies into water, the chant is born in silence and dies down into silence. Om Ishaya Namaha. Om Ishaya Namaha. Om Ishaya Namaha. The one that is watching silence is silence. You are that silence. You are the one that is watching the silence. In silence, you see the chant coming. As silence, you see the chant dying down. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamugacchati Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You can open your eyes and come back to normal thinking. Rub your eyes if you want to. Palm it if you want to. A shorter meditation this time. We took half a step forward, if you will notice it. Okay. And we will build up on this more today because of the lack of time. Many of you may have committed something after the class. Okay. Sorry about all that mess that happened with the Wi-Fi. Okay. I have to find some ways of updating that. Yeah. So we will have one more class on 23rd. Today is 23rd we'll have the class, and of course 30th will be the camp. I hope all of you have registered for the camp. Okay, it'll be I am doing a text which is a very beautiful text written by Shankara's youngest student. Yeah. Okay, about 14 verses only, but beautiful. These texts you can't get everywhere. You'll get only in a setup like a camp or something like that. Okay, so see you all, have a nice time, and many of you have been transferring Guru Dakshina to me. Thank you all for that. Okay. Take care. Om Tat Sat.